How did women deal with their periods during World War II? This is a topic that's rarely discussed in history books. You might think that this isn't a very important or interesting topic, but trust me, it is. Because periods aren't just biological phenomena, they're also a social and cultural one, and they can reveal a lot about the challenges, struggles, and achievements of women in different times and places. Let's start off with some background information. World War II was a global conflict that lasted from 1939 to 1945 and involved more than 100 million people from over 30 countries. It was the deadliest war in human history, with an estimated 70 to 85 million casualties. The war affected every aspect of life, from politics and economy to culture and society. And of course, it also affected women's lives in many ways. One of the most significant changes for women during World War II was their increased participation in the workforce. As millions of men left their jobs to join the military, women stepped in to fill the gaps in various sectors such as industry, agriculture, transport, healthcare, education, and even entertainment. Women worked as factory workers, farmers, nurses, teachers, drivers, clerics, journalists, and more. Some women also joined the military as volunteers or conscripts, serving as pilots, spies, radio operators, and more. Women's contribution to the war effort was essential and invaluable, but it also came with many challenges and difficulties. One of these challenges was how to manage their periods while working long hours in demanding conditions. You see, back then, there were no disposable pads or tampons like we have today. Instead, women used reusable cloth pads or rags they had to wash and dry every day. This was not only inconvenient and uncomfortable, but also unhygienic and risky because washing facilities were often scarce or inadequate, especially in rural areas or war zones, and because drying the pads in public was considered shameful or indecent, women had to hide them under their clothes or in their bags. This could lead to infections, rashes, or even toxic shock syndrome. Another challenge was how to access menstrual products in the first place. Back then, there were no supermarkets or online shops where you could buy pads or rags easily and cheaply. Instead, women had to rely on local shops or pharmacies that often ran out of stock or raised their prices due to shortages or rationing. And because menstrual products were considered luxury items or non-essential goods, they weren't included in the government's distribution of basic supplies to civilians or soldiers. This meant that many women had to improvise with whatever materials they could find, such as newspapers, cotton wool, old clothes, or even moss. And if that wasn't enough, there was also the stigma and taboo surrounding menstruation in general. Back then, periods weren't something people talked about openly or positively. Instead, they were seen as a sign of weakness, impurity, or even madness. Many myths and misconceptions circulated about menstruation, such as that it made women irrational, hysterical, or unfit for work. Many men were ignorant or insensitive about women's needs and experiences during their periods, and many women felt ashamed or embarrassed about their natural bodily function. So how did women cope with all these challenges? Well, they did what they always do. They adapted, they improvised, and they supported each other. They shared tips and tricks on how to make their own pads or rags from various materials. They exchanged supplies and resources with each other when they could. They formed networks and communities of mutual aid and solidarity among themselves and with other groups of marginalized people. They challenged stereotypes and prejudices about menstruation by proving their competence and resilience in their work and daily lives. And they celebrated their femininity and sexuality by expressing themselves through fashion, music, art, and literature. In conclusion, women's periods during World War II weren't just a minor inconvenience or a trivial detail. They were a major challenge that reflected the broader social and cultural context of the time. But they were also a source of strength and empowerment that showed the diversity and creativity of women's responses to adversity. Thank you all for watching this video, and don't forget to leave a comment down below and let us know what you think about this topic. See you next time!